Well, it's not quite after dark, but it is after a Duke win. And it's not quite the OG, but a double G. I'm Joe Giglio here on the After Dark with my son, James Giglio. And Duke moves on with an 89-66 win over Baylor in Raleigh. James, if Tyrese Proctor is going to play like that, throw away your bracket if you don't have Duke as the last team standing, because that was a seriously impressive performance by the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I'm someone who's been very critical of Tyrese Proctor, really, for the last couple of years. I thought he didn't play well enough last year in the Elite Eight game. I thought he didn't play well enough 2 years ago, and when John Shire's first year. But this year, today, he played phenomenal. 9 for 10 from the field, 7 of 8 from three, 25 points, led all scores. If he plays like that, Flag doesn't have to do everything. I don't know who can beat Duke right now, especially if Flag plays that way, or if Proctor plays that way.
18-9 and like a ho-hum 18-9-6 from Flag. It did afford Con Knippel to have a little bit of an off game today.
He was still hitting shots though.
He was functional, but Proctor, the real star here. And then, it was interesting to me. We were talking on the OG, as last seen on the OG. We were talking about how I thought North Carolina is going to have a hard conversation with Elliot Cadeau and say to him, "Love you, mean it, but it would be best for you to move on."
Yeah.
And Tracy Wolfson giving the game away today. I've been waiting for this to come out. We don't get credentialed by the NCAA, but it would have been a question I had asked this week. Jeremy Roach, according to Tracy Wolfson, said to her, "Yes, we had a hard conversation." And John Shire told me, basically, we don't have a spot for you. We don't have room for you.
Yeah.
He told him in so many words, "I love you. I mean it, but we can't get to where we want to go if you're our point guard or if you're even our scoring guard." And looking at it, John was absolutely right, because now you go from Roach potentially being the one or the two, and quite frankly, he's been better off the ball. So you go from Roach being from the one or the two to now Proctor definitively as your one, and Knippel as your two. Obviously, Knippel, we're looking at a lottery pick in Knippel. So sometimes you have to have hard conversations. I tip my hat to Tracy Wolfson for relaying that hard conversation. So again, Duke wins 89-66, up 17 at the half. Earlier in the day, we had the Florida-UConn game in the same building. Florida's uniforms even look like Duke's. I'm sitting here going, Florida's going to wipe them out. Because, listen, Duke, Florida, Auburn have mostly been the best teams all year, right?
Yeah.
Like, St. John's is an interesting story. Everyone got caught up in Patino. UConn won back-to-back titles. But it's been pretty clear that they've been a half step or maybe even a full step slower from their previous two teams. That first game today, though, there was some juice over at the Lenovo Center. You went over on Saturday. You actually saw the Florida game.
We watched the Florida-Norfolk State game. Florida, jumped on Norfolk State early. That wasn't really a question. They were going to win. And I was really impressed with their bigs, Condon especially. Those guys are gigantic down low, especially Walter Clayton, their one guard, Iona transfer, actually, speaking of Rick Pitino. But yeah, I was really impressed with Florida and how they played that game. And then we watched UConn, Oklahoma after. And I was impressed with how UConn played down the stretch. They looked like they were the better coach team. And that really matters in March. And I expected UConn to play well today. I expect them to be ready to play today. They played a lot better than I expected today. I thought maybe they'd fade down the stretch. But if they're a couple offensive rebounds away from, I think, winning that game.
We're going to get into UConn in a little bit with Nata Edwards from CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball. I'll just leave that as a tease. But first, let's bring on Ben Bird, Duke Bull City coordinators. Ben, thank you for joining us here on the After Dark. I know you, of course, for your outstanding Duke football coverage. But when Joe Ovius was like, "Yeah, man, love," he gave me a hard conversation. He gave me the "I love you, mean it," but I ain't doing an After Dark today. So I said, fine, I'll reach out to my guy, Ben. And Ben, what were some of your impressions from Duke's performance today in their 89-66 win over Baylor?
First off, thanks for having me on. But I think the main thing was if Con Knippel is going to have a quiet 12, it sure helps if Proctor is going to shoot the bejesus out of the ball. If he's going to play like that, it's going to be hard, I think, for any team to beat the Blue Devils. And one of the things that was really impressive, I thought, throughout this game and throughout maybe the last 5 or 6 games, handful of games, whatever, is that Shire, and particularly you've seen it with Foster, a guy who was buried on the depth chart. I thought he was going to put his name in the portal. I didn't think we were going to see him much. And he had a pretty solid game today. I mean, he knows his role. He comes in, he plays well. He had 6 points, 3 assists. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good performance from him. And when your entire team, each player knows his role, watch out if you're the opposing team and the opposing coach.
Let's talk a little bit about John Shire, because we all know pretty much no one has gone from being the guy who follows the guy and having the type of success that John Shire is right now. Now, he needs to seal the deal this year. He needs to win this national title for me to proclaim him to be the first to be the guy who follows the guy, right? Like, we can agree on that. But he's done a tremendous job with this roster. And you bring up Foster. I look at James and Gillis as the ones who you go out. They had obviously bigger roles on their previous schools, but he's been able to convince them to buy in to what they can do and to help and to complement what the stars do. And let me tell you, in 2025, that is not easy to do. So that's been the biggest thing that I look at John and I go, you got all these old coaches bitching and whining about the portal and today's players not very tough, and it's just like, he's brought these guys in, and I think he's really integrated them into the roster. And Gillis was in the freaking national championship game last year. He could have pretty much gone anywhere and been a bigger player.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he has handled this roster, to me, Ben, it's been perfect.
I agree with that 100%. And to your point about Gillis, he hadn't shot the ball well. I can't remember the last time he made a 3, and he drains 2 there. But when he's not shooting well, he's still playing defense. He's rebounding. He's making guys take hard shots, and he's doing all those small things that may not show up on a box score. But how you get the buy-in from him, James, Evans has cooled off a lot, thank God, which means he'll probably come back next year for us Blue Devils fans. But the way that Shire's kept those guys in the rotation, and nobody's gotten angry, nobody's gotten upset. I mean, Pat, Big 21, wasn't hardly supposed to play this year, and the guy looks like a future all-star at center. I mean, he missed most of his senior year. He barely played basketball for a while coming into this season, and Shire's got him playing great. I mean, he's getting blocks. His form on rebounds is very good. The way he comes down with the ball, gets both hands on it. Shire and that staff, and having lost Lucas, they're doing one heck of a job. I mean, to go through all that, and to have these guys playing the way that they played through 2 games in the tournament, win the regular season ACC, which is now a thing, win the tournament, and then to rub salt in the state guys' wounds, shooting well finally at the Lenovo Center there. I mean, this has just been a masterful job so far by Shire.
So good. I'm glad you brought that up. And James and I were talking about this. He's like, doesn't Duke kind of struggle in Raleigh? And I said, yes. Mm-hmm. They had in their last 10 games, they were 4-6 at what is now known as the Lenovo Center. This is their 3rd time in the NCAA tournament there. 0-4, they go 2-0, 2 easy games. 14, of course, they lose to Mercer in the first round. And now the 2 wins this weekend in Raleigh. So they're now 4-1 even in the Lenovo Center in the NCAA tournament. So good things can happen for Duke in the Lenovo Center. Now, one thing, Ben, that James had brought up to me, VJ Edgecombe at Baylor is a lottery pick and maybe even higher. And it was interesting, and maybe, James, you can start with this. I thought Cooper Flagg in the first half of this game was like seeking out Edgecombe, mm-hmm. almost like, okay, mm-hmm. You think maybe you can be the number 1, and I've seen a little bit of that, maybe one of the Rutgers kids or him. Mm-hmm. Oh, you think maybe you're going to be the number 1 pick? I really like the way that Cooper Flagg kind of sought him out in the first half of this game.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some competitiveness there when it comes to being in the NBA, because obviously Rutgers has the 2 top 5 picks potentially, and they didn't make the tournament. And we talked about on the way over, there's not a lot of matchups in this tournament where there's going to be 2 lottery picks playing against each other. So I think this is, one of the few potential matchups with 2 lottery picks. I think Cooper Flagg, saw out that Edgecombe. And I mean, Edgecombe had a great game in round 1 against Mississippi State. He was probably the reason they won. I mean, he had a good game today, but 1 for 5 from 3. And especially in that first half, like you said, Cooper Flagg, I think, really sought him out and shut him down.
You could see the bounce in Edgecombe's game. Ben, you may be numb to the fact that Cooper Flagg is the best player in the country at this point, but what did you think of, obviously he had the injury in Charlotte with the ankle. Some people were like, well, he played more than I thought, but he looked tentative in the opener against the Mount. What did you think of Cooper and his game today?
I think clearly he's going to leave everything he has on the court in this tournament. He does not want to miss a moment. You saw the way he got a little angry at Roach when Roach gave him that love tap with that old man move of hooking Flagg and getting around with the lay-in. James, you've probably experienced that from your dad once or twice. But the way that Flagg is rebounding, the way that he's bringing the ball up the court. You saw Shire got him back in late when they had some difficulty bringing the ball up in the second half. I was having this conversation with some guys online going into the ACC tournament, and this team's just all business. I mean, every single one of these guys are all business, and to see the way that Flagg played, the way he attacked the basket, it looked like his eye got ripped off there. I mean, I was surprised he came back in as swollen and nasty as it looked, and then he just calmly drains those free throws like it was nothing. If he's going to play like that, and if Proctor is going to play like that, this is going to be a matchup nightmare, I think, for the remaining teams. But as Joe, as you have pointed out, that's the beauty of these tournaments and who you end up playing in any given night. And I don't know. But today was just an exciting game all the way around. And to finally drive the nail home answering your question, Flagg was unbelievable. I mean, looking at his stats here, he had 18, a block, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and Duke was giving up a lot of offensive rebounds early, and then those guys locked that down. And that, along with the foul trouble Baylor had in the first half, really, I thought, turned the tide for the Blue Devils.
Ben, before we let you go, I look at Duke's draw ahead, and everyone, when the bracket came out, was like, oh, it's going to be Arizona versus Duke. Now, Dana Altman's a hell of a coach, so it wouldn't surprise me today if Oregon found a way to beat them. But as a Duke guy, pardon my language, James, do you want to see that motherfucker and his Tar Heel for life on his shoes in Jersey? Because as someone who does not like him, I would like to see Duke give him his comeuppance. Yes, please.
Well, let me put it like this, because I don't want to tempt the basketball gods. I don't want to spite them. I don't want to bring their anger down, their fickle ways down upon anybody. But I will say this: does it really matter if Duke beats him? Because Carolina beat Duke twice a couple of years ago. So,
right.
I mean, do we even count these games that we're seeing, or did basketball just stop back then? Because I mean, to some people, basketball ended at that game, right? So, I mean, I guess my real question is for you is when and under what circumstances do I get to say scoreboard, motherfucker?
I would say the trade, as I've said, the devil's bargain. Fine, I lost to Carolina in the Final Four. Fine, I lost to State in the Final 8. If they close this out, they close it out with a title. You take those 2 losses and you say it was totally worth it. Totally worth it. Because to me, that's the whole conversation to me. I don't get this consistency argument. I don't get this. We were great in the regular season. Like, the banner is what counts. So if they have that, there you go. I think that's the conversation. Ben, your Twitter handle's there for the people who might be listening to this, though. Let them know where they can find your fantastic Bull City coordinator coverage.
Well, thank you for that plug, Joe. I appreciate it. And people who are listening probably have already liked and subscribed here. But remember, you can join the OG fans, which I did recently. Thank you, Joe, for shaming me and reminding me to do that.
That's right.
We got that taken care of finally.
Hey, when
We
you
got
ask
that
the
finally taken
question-
care of. But you can find me bullcitycoordinators.com.
Perfect. I know you're ready to see this run and to see
Yeah,
if that
Bull City
trade comes
Coordinators.
through. But you're also ready for football season, I can tell.
Well, yeah. Well, Manny was in the house today. He was there. You saw him briefly on TV. He was there. So we got another Tulane transfer. So maybe it'll work out as well as James has. I don't know.
Perfect. Ben Bird, Bull City Coordinators, thank you so much for taking some time for me on this Sunday. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, James, before we bring Nata Edwards on, you're a youth.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of Caleb Love's for life on his shoes? And then even John Shire saying in the pregame or the press conferences before today's game that Will Roach will always be a Blue Devil.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know, man.
I mean, I could see Roach maybe more because, I mean, he's a 4-year player, team captain. Caleb Love and the whole Duke thing, I was going to mention this. I mean, Duke beat Arizona this year at Arizona. And I mean, I don't know the exact record between Duke against Caleb Love, but I mean, I feel like it'll be pretty even because even in that year where it was Coach K's last year, Duke did beat them at Carolina. So, I mean, Caleb Love did end Coach K's career, I guess you could say, in the Final Four, but the narrative that like Caleb Love by himself owns or Duke, I don't know how. I feel like it's been a couple years now. I feel like Duke's kind of got the upper hand now.
If I cared enough, the shot would be up on the wall because he did dot Mark Williams. The shot did dot him. I mean,
but they did also
full credit.
They didn't win the championship that year.
They did not. And that's
and
why
State didn't win the championship last year.
Correct. And that's why I would say the Devil's bargain still works out in Duke's favor. If they close the deal this year, those two losses would be worth it. All
exactly.
Right. Yeah. Let's bring on now Nata Edwards, CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball. Nata, appreciate you taking some time here for not the OG, but 2 Gilios.
Look, Gilio squared. I'll take Gilio squared, even if Ovius didn't want to work on a Sunday. I'm sorry. The rest of us have to. Content never sleeps. Wasn't he one of the people that came up with that idea? Content never sleeps. And yet
he was also
he's sleeping, taking a nap right now, probably.
So before we start, I'll let you actually start with your plug. You guys have been doing the Eye on College Basketball podcast every day during the tournament, super late.
No, not every day, every night. And sometimes, So we've started this podcast this week at 2:30 in the morning, midnight, 2:30 last night, and we'll probably go about 1 tonight. Yeah,
so you're like, Gilio, stop calling yourself an after dark when you're on at fucking 5:30.
Still light out.
Look, it's the morning for me. Again, I just had my pancakes. I'm not even kidding. Like, I had pancakes, I got my sausage, and quite literally just sat down, enjoyed breakfast, watched Duke destroy this team, and just go about my day.
You and I have talked a lot this season about the top heaviness of the field. And that's kind of playing out in real time. Arkansas beating Patino notwithstanding. And we can get into that a little bit because you understand my frustration with that result. But were you surprised with the Florida UConn game? And then B, what did you kind of think of Duke's really just dominant performance against Baylor?
I was incredibly surprised because Florida had been one of the 2 or 3 best teams I've seen, quite literally, until tonight. And then Dan Hurley basically was like, I don't have my fastball. I might not even have the curveball. I might just have the straight change, and that's it. And what did he do? He put the fear of God into that Florida team for a good, I want to say 35, 36 minutes. That's not a vintage UConn team. That's not even like last year's UConn team, like one of the all-timers. We're never going to, again, people are never going to really agree on that. For me, that's one of the best teams I've ever seen, and just because they just straight dominated everybody. This isn't even the 2-year ago UConn team that basically wasn't that great, figured it out in the tournament, and just ran over everybody. This, like Florida, I'll put it this way. This is as much as I would like say, hey, this is not a really, really, really good UConn team. The fact that they did that and they put the fear of God in Florida it took them down a notch for me. And I wasn't expecting to take them down a notch, especially since that's my title game, Duke, Florida.
Yeah, James and I were talking about Florida and how, their best player began his career at Iona.
Mhm.
Is it possible that the reason this tournament is so chalky is that players like Walter Clayton go from Iona, where he was really, really good, to now the number one team in the country, and it's the other mid majors and less than mid majors have become a farm system for these bigger teams?
Yes and no. I think it's a bigger delineation. I think it quite honestly is one of those who know what they're doing in talent acquisition and those that don't.
Okay.
Because look at a team like Kansas per se.
Yeah.
Kansas doesn't know what to do in the portal. They've missed more than they've hit. And the one time that they might have hit in the last 2 years, Hunter Dickinson, it ends up being their Achilles heel. Now look at, again, we'll take it even a little bit locally. Hubert Davis in the portal doesn't really he gets it because you'll get your Brady Mannix, you'll get your Harrison Ingrams, to a lesser extent, again, your Van Allen Lubins, you'll get those guys. But for the other part of it, you still got the Cade Tysons. Paxton Wojcik was good, but he wasn't great. You've got your hits and your misses. So I think a lot of this is, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what fits your team? And those that know what fit their team, the Auburns, the Dukes, the even Arkansas to a degree, do you know what fits your team in terms of the transfer portal? If you do, then you're going to win. If you don't, then you're going to struggle and you're going to frustrate your fan base.
I want to play this clip because Hurley, I thought, had that thing going today.
Yeah.
And then, we're watching this game and James and I had the same thought. You lost the game because you couldn't rebound a free throw miss.
Yeah, 2 offensive rebounds. I think they win.
I mean, for real.
As
good as Clayton was down the stretch. I mean, seriously, he was great.
He had a big 3.
But they're at the free throw line and you can't secure a free throw rebound. And McNeely, that was the curse of the McNeely family playing in that building. I'm not even shitting you. That they should not have been in that building.
No,
the second UConn got that draw, I was like, oh boy, you don't want to be there. You do not want to be there. But hats off to UConn. They have not been a great team this year, but you could tell there was a little bit of that, fuck you, we're still UConn today.
Yes.
Trying to take out Florida. So props. That's why, and also I'm from Jersey, he's from Jersey, this whole thing, right? So I have mad respect, but I lose respect when he does stuff like this. And here is the clip from Dan Hurley walking off the court today.
I hope they don't do that to you, Baylor. I hope they don't do that to you.
So if you've ever been behind the tunnels there at the Lenovo Center, Baylor's in the hallway
coming out,
ready to come out, and he says to them, "I hope they don't fuck you like they fucked us."
Talking about the officials, right?
The officials,
yeah.
Danny. You
see,
you did not lose the game because of the officials, Danny. Come on, be better than that. Come on.
See, I can't get mad at him because this is just Danny Hurley. I'll put it this way, Giglio, how many times in your youth did you remember going to a pizza spot or going somewhere in Jersey and quite literally having the same experience where someone got a bad customer service experience and they just went up, yelled, "I hope they don't treat you like they treat me"? That's just life in the Northeast. That's how he is. The man, again, you can take the man out of Jersey. You cannot take Jersey out of the man. You know that better than anybody else, Giglio.
Tell James that Houston beating Gonzaga, he's a little crestfallen over there because he had the Zags. Somehow the Genes, somehow he got the Zags in the Final Four. Yeah,
you didn't tell,
I tried.
I needed
we had a conversation multiple times over Houston because I remember when some of us doubted Houston.
That was me.
And I had to text my friend and be like, "You don't want to go out on this ledge." I would have thought you would have passed that fatherly advice right on to your son James and be like, don't make the same mistakes I did. And clearly you did not implore hard enough. I'm disappointed in you, Joe. I am disappointed.
I'll take the blame, but I think he was thinking of it like a Yeah, but you can defend the pick because
I'll
you're trying to
defend
zig a little bit.
I mean, you got to pick a pick. You got to win a bracket league somehow. If everyone's making the same picks, you're not going to win. I thought Gonzaga was underseeded. I mean, they destroyed Georgia in the first round. So I was like,
and they rallied.
They did rally. They rallied for no reason though, and they didn't even get a shot off.
Like you're right about this, James. Like this is where like the seeding, and again, we could talk about the seeding and how messed up the seeding was in this tournament and who got in and who got out. But I don't feel like going through reruns. I would tell you that Gonzaga was horrifically underseeded. We had a top 10 Ken Pom matchup in the second round. Yeah. Something has horrifically gone wrong. So I don't necessarily blame you for picking Gonzaga because that's kind of a fashionable pick. The problem is Houston. This is the best Houston team I've ever seen under Kelvin Sampson. Yeah. And they shoot. It's not just that they get in your shit defensively. They shoot. They hit a lot of shots. LJ Cryer went berserk from three. If they get that LJ Cryer, that might be the only team between here and Florida that puts the fear of God into Duke because they're that good. They're that tight. They're that tight defensively. That's a game that you, again, first to 55 might win.
Yeah.
2008, San Antonio, the only time it's ever happened, all four number ones in the Final Four. We're not
getting that.
Who doesn't get that?
Auburn falls off.
I thought Creighton was going to get out Auburn. I don't think so anymore. Florida kind of scared me. Florida kind of scares me. And I do kind of wonder if Texas Tech knocks them off. Because I think it's
ball.
Grant, like that's the funny part. Like me and you had conversation about Grant McCaslin. That dude could coach. And if there was anybody that was more NC State coach than possibly Will Wade, it would have been Grant McCaslin because that dude would have had a whole, like at least 15 acres in Eastern North Carolina, like a whole farm set. He would have been so NC State. And I'm surprised they didn't call him. But Grant McCaslin can coach, man. That dude is going to be in a power job, top 20 job sooner rather than later.
Speaking of teams on the wrong line, though, I think Michigan, Big Ten champs, I was surprised. That guy can coach his ass off, too.
We were talking about that yesterday. I thought Michigan should have been on the 3 or 4 line at least.
Agreed. This was a horrifically seeded job. Like, we don't even have to get into North Carolina. Like, the committee screwed the pooch on this one. The committee just messed this up in a way that I didn't necessarily see possible because we've gotten fairly decent seating, and then this new group comes in and they're not what they're supposed to be. Honestly, like I'm very disappointed because again, I thought Michigan, Texas A&M should have been a matchup that we get around down. Like we get that in the Sweet 16, we get that in the Elite 8. We got the fact that we got that in the round of 32. Somebody messed up, and unfortunately, it was neither Michigan nor Texas A&M.
Yeah, in general, I kind of thought the Big Ten was slightly dismissed in this tournament, and I have, to be fair, we're not following Illinois right now, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, to be fair, the Big Ten has earned that reputation.
Okay,
it's one of those things where you do well. It's kind of like the Mountain West, just a bigger version of it, where the Mountain West shows up. Does really, really well in the regular season. And then when you get to the tournament time, when, again, it just all of this matters, they don't show up, except for this year. But it's very much the same with Big Ten, honestly. Like, I didn't expect Purdue to go through those two teams the way they did. I didn't expect, Michigan, I expected it out of. The fact that Purdue looks, you know me and my opinion on Braden Smith. And the first time he shows up in a big moment will be the first time he does in his life.
That's fair.
Like, that dude is one of those guys that everyone wants to talk about, Naismith Player of the Year. And I can't get the just image of him urinating down his leg against Fairleigh Dickinson. I'm sorry. Like, that is never going to leave my brain.
Also a real thing.
Unfortunately, it's just, I love Matt Painter. I think Matt Painter can coach his ass off. I just don't trust the players that he got. Like, he had a generational big man and got to the championship game. And granted, if it wasn't for, again, aforementioned UConn, he would have a title right now.
Nata Edwards, CBS Sports on College Basketball is the podcast. All right, I have two more questions for you. One of them involves NC State, and but just speaking, I was actually Purdue was the one where I was going to be like, speaking of underseeded teams, they felt like even as a 4 felt a little bit of a stretch for the world, but you know, we can parse some of these things afterwards. I get all that, but I don't know. James is 20 years older. He'll be 20 in a week.
Yeah.
It's easily the most boring tournament of his lifetime, isn't it, so far?
It is, but also it goes back to what we talked about, those that know what they're doing in terms of talent acquisition and those that don't.
Okay.
You have to know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you're going to do well. And also, there are a bunch of these teams, like as much as like Drake and Ben McCollum, they knew what they were doing. They just play a really, really boring style of basketball, which ironically, he's taking to Iowa, which neither.
Oh, is that where he's going already?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yep.
Iowa.
Reported. Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's like after the game.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Exactly. It could be no more on brand for Iowa to have the most boring football and boring basketball programs in the country. It could not be more like poetic, honestly. At this point, though, like it really does come to do you know what you're doing? Like, say what you want about Calipari in Arkansas. He figured it out because that was a dumpster fire for the better part of 2 months. He goes to Lexington, wins, rattles off a few more wins. In the middle of that, gets housed by South Carolina and Colin Murray broils by 20, and then comes back and has 2 solid games, one against Bill Self and the imploding Kansas team, and the other against a team that clearly was imploding internally with RJ Lewis and Rick Pitino. And now he's in the Sweet 16. He knows what he's doing. You got to get these coaches that know what they're doing. And unfortunately, there's some that are still learning on the job, and there are others that still need that figured out, know who they are and very comfortable in who they are.
all right. So Calipari was who I wanted to hit because you know me and how many years in a row I picked Kentucky and he pipes me every single year. And he gets Pitino. And I'm thinking, oh, Pitino's going to make short work of him. And I'm sitting here. James heard me crying the whole day. I was like, I'm never watching the regular season again. Like, you can't sit here and tell me you followed the regular season and thought Arkansas was better than St. John's or that Calipari was going to beat somebody in the postseason. Like, it just, I don't know. That was super annoying to me.
I get it, but I also would tell you, like, the regular season does matter. It's one of those things where, unfortunately, it's part of the story. Again, sometimes there's prologue to it. And unfortunately, when it comes to having these stories and everything else like that, sometimes the writer goes in a completely different direction than you ever thought possible just to twist it. And had you told me that Jonas Adu, and more importantly, had you told me Boogie Flynn was actually coming back to play, I would have told you, hey, look, maybe we need to give Arkansas a little bit more credence than they actually got. But also at the same point, like the SEC was the best metric team in the metric conference in the country for a reason. So we needed to throw a little bit more weight behind that.
Adu is going to get us to our final question, which you tell me how a kid from Durham, a big, who Carolina desperately needed, ends up at freaking Arkansas while Carolina is sitting there desperate for size. Like, I know the answer is $1.2 million.
More than that. It's more than that. No. It's $1.2 million, but it goes more. It's more than just about the money.
And that gets us to this general manager discussion. A lot of people have been like, Carolina, we stop talking about general manager. Like, doesn't matter. And you're someone who from the beginning has pointed out the reason Duke has gotten this transition correct is Rachel Baker.
Like, that's the thing. Like, Jaleel, that's the thing. Like, everyone wants to say it doesn't matter, but you want me to place my faith in North Carolina acquiring talent and figuring this out. Because, again, we spent the better part of our conversation saying the programs that get it, and the programs that don't. I've spent the majority of our conversation saying that. You can't tell me you get it when it's Jim Tanner, an NBA agent, and then the guy beneath him who might be there just to make sure that Michael's money interests are taken care of, is Buzz Peterson, the shadow GM of the Charlotte Hornets. Which, hey, I might have experience and I might know some things about how buzz gets down. So you're telling me that, unfortunately, like you're telling me those are your guys that you're choosing to place your faith in talent acquisition. And I'm telling you that, are we ready for Operation 2025, Hubert's last stand? Because that's the only way, that's the only conclusion I can come with. And then on top of that, you're telling me Andy Slater is going to be the GM for, and working with hand in hand with Will Wade, a guy with shoe circuit connections that knows basically everybody from pro to amateur to grassroots to AAU. That's the difference. These guys have to know everybody, and these guys have to be trusted by everybody. And I'm pretty much guaranteeing, if Will Wade, like this was Will Wade's guy, this isn't we're going to force. We're going to force. Like, it's not Jim Tanner where like maybe this is Hubert's guy, maybe it's not Hubert's guy. Like, this is a completely different aspect of this where these guys these GMs need to work hand in hand. If they're not, then like, what are you doing here? And you're just wasting another year trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I had broken the news about Andy Slater, you texted me, you're like, they did what? And I was like, yeah, it's a big deal, right? He's like, you were like, Joe, this is a game changer for State. And I think a lot of people don't know who he is. I had been telling James, I'm like, you remember when the Oklahoma City Thunder had like 28 first-round picks and they wanted to like know who the best 15-year-old was? Well, this is the guy they hired to figure out who the best 15-year-old was, so they could draft him in the next 3 to 4 years. So really kind of, I don't want to say I'm proud of NC State, but I'm kind of like impressed.
You should be.
That they're like, you know what? We're ready to be at the big boy table. Look at us.
But also it takes and for all the stuff about Boo, and I'm not the biggest fan of Boo, but
right. I mean, who is?
I would tell, yeah,
to be fair.
Also very true. Also very, very true. Like, the one thing I will give Boo is he took an honest look at the landscape and said, this is where we are. This is where this is where college basketball is. We need to get from here to here. And he looked at it honestly. He's like, okay, I need to get the money people together. Got the money people to go get Will Wade. He knew that there was going to take an investment. And I'm pretty sure he saw how many people were so willing to go out to Phoenix, Arizona, in the middle of nowhere with the most disorganized Final Four that I'd been to. And Gilio, you know exactly what I'm talking about too.
I do.
You know exactly what I'm talking
about. The plane's not going to be there. Oh, because the chancellor needs a seat on the plane, and you guys are going to have to take this private jet. And you're going to miss the big tailgate that we set up. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can't shit on your donors the way that State did last year. But that's
But also, but again, it takes honesty to understand exactly where you are and to be like, okay, how do I get from here to here? Yeah. Okay. And also, we see that there's a fervor for NC State basketball in the area. And how can we best serve our alumni base, our donor base? Hey, let's make basketball relevant again. And why not do it now when there's only maybe 3 programs in the conference that take it seriously? And that might be the way you make it. That, like, because I can't even say Carolina takes it seriously right now. They haven't. It's very like they clearly haven't suffered enough.
I know.
They clearly haven't, because it's one of those things like, yo, like, why are you doing this way when everybody else is quite literally doing it that way? You're holding on to traditions, and those have become shackles to basically stop you from growing. And unfortunately, like, it's funny how State understood that a lot quicker than Carolina does.
Nata Edwards, CBS Sports on College Basketball is the podcast. All right, before you leave, young James here, sophomore at ECU. I've been trying to get him to do something else with his life, but he wants to do this nonsense. What is your piece of advice for James Gilio?
Do everything. Quite literally, do everything. Because Gilio, again, your father will tell you that I used to write for Dime and Up Rocks and cover the NBA that way. So quite literally, just do everything, because that way, when they say, hey, can you do this? Yeah, sure. And you never know how that could quite literally take your career to places that you never thought you'd see.
Appreciate it.
Great advice. Nata Edwards, Nata the Scribe on the Twitters. Appreciate you, man. And I just had my iced coffee because you know my bedtime. I know you have a lot of work to do tonight, so I appreciate you taking some time for us today and for the great advice, James.
No, absolutely. Like, quite honestly, the Domino's is coming in about like 35 minutes. It's almost lunchtime for me.
Lunch. Okay.
Exactly. It's almost lunch.
All right, Nata. Appreciate it. Thanks for everything.
Absolutely, man.
All right, James. We normally on this program, we have the OG Sports phone, 919-444-2211. You're all welcome to call the OG Sports phone. We will play those calls tomorrow or Tuesday. However, all of those calls go to Joe Ovius's Google account, not mine. We don't need access to Joe's Google account. So those calls will play on the OG tomorrow. But we have a bunch of comments here. So let's see. Let's go through some comments here. Yeah, people were upset that I had titled this thing "Nothing Easy." Duke glides into the Sweet 16 before the game ever started. But listen, people, every once in a while, you'll learn how to point to the passer and tell me I know what the hell I'm doing. All right, so here we go. Let's find us some comments, shall we? Let's see. Let's start with Bubba Warbucks. Last year's Duke team would have folded at halftime against this Baylor team. Can you coach toughness? I agree, and as you point out, Proctor had struggled in previous turn, even going back to the Tennessee game, 2 years ago. I don't necessarily know if you're coaching toughness or if you're bringing in tougher players. And then I think first of all, Cooper Flagg's an unbelievable competitor. His effort matches all of his other skills, if doesn't exceed those skills. Mm-hmm. The beauty of Knipple and Cooper Flagg is that pushes Proctor down the hierarchy and he becomes a bonus. And I've said this all year, he's a bonus. Last year, they needed him to be a bus driver. He wasn't capable of doing it. This year, he's a bonus. And when he has games like he did today, I've said all along, that is the key for Duke to win this whole thing. And I do think really, honestly, I'd be hard pressed to figure out a time that Duke's looked better, and they've looked really good. If you go back to the Carolina game in Cameron, Illinois, they murder them by 60 or whatever the hell it was, neutral site, right? But to me, I'm looking at this and I'm going, because that was a good Baylor team. Norchad O'Meara been to the Final Four with Miami. Roach obviously been to the Final Four with Duke. Edgecombe is a lottery pick, as we talked about. So
Scott Drew's a great coach.
Scott Drew's got a title in his back pocket, So here we go. For you, James, State better not lose to ECU in the first game from George. You're still celebrating from the Military Bowl, aren't you?
Yeah, that celebration's still riding high. We're celebrating until that Thursday week 1 game at Carter Finley. I think ECU is going to win that game next year. Sue me.
Calling your shot.
I think ECU wins that game next year. I'm not afraid to say it's ECU's Super Bowl. I said it was our Super Bowl in the bowl game. I just have a weird feeling we're going to come out and win that game.
All right.
NC State, I feel like plays bad week 1.
From Ben, Gilio cursing in front of his kid, raising him right. Yeah.
McNeely.
You want to sell out Jackson?
Sell him out?
Tell the story about how the first time your mother heard him curse and you were like, that's nothing.
I don't remember that story.
You have a 17-year-old brother when he was like 2, I think. Jessica, or your mom, my wife, heard him curse for the first time. And you said to her, you're 3 years older than your brother, so you were like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And you were like, that's nothing. He says fucking shit all the time, Mom.
Yeah. That was 15 years ago.
Yeah. You can put that all on me, man. You can put that all on me. Let's see. Kenneth Maynor. Duke lining up to beat a bunch of overrated Big 12 teams. First Baylor, then Arizona, BYU, Houston. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought, looking at Duke's path, I didn't think the committee did them any favors in their region. I liked Alabama. I liked Wisconsin. I think BYU's a good team. Robert Morris was a spunky type team.
Oregon's not a bad team.
Dana Altman.
Oregon could be. I think Oregon's going to beat Arizona today. Actually.
Oregon could. So I am the king of bracket luck is real, but I looked at who was just in their region, and if I could have cashed my Alabama ticket, I would have, because I just don't think Alabama's good enough to beat Duke. So, yeah,
Alabama will have trouble with BYU. I mean, assuming Alabama beats
St. Mary's.
they'll have
Alabama's gonna have trouble with everybody because they can't defend.
No,
Now they can outscore anyone.
BYU. I was very impressed with BYU yesterday versus Wisconsin. I picked Wisconsin. To win that game.
Unfortunately,
I think Alabama will have some real trouble with BYU.
unfortunately, Joe Corey, Duke is going to New Jersey. They're real home away from home. Yes, although it is the Rock, the Prudential Center, not the Garden, so a little bit different there. Call this podcast Generations G. Yes, no O today. Mike, mini gigs, even though you're bigger than me at this point. Baba, definitely have the hair. Lol, there you go. Let's see who else we got. Oh, and T wanted us to go to the OG Sports Phone. Like I said, can't get there, but here you go, T. Okay, a 6-year contract. Yes, Will Wade. I think the number will come out. 6 years, $18 million. So relative bargain.
Yeah.
For the Wolfpack. Now, of course, the real money is the investment in the roster. It'll be interesting to see what Andy Slater's contract looks like too. I suspect that will be $1 million for their new GM. Are you excited? The manager, the grad assistant with the boombox
is he actually coming?
Is coming to Raleigh.
Is that real?
That's real.
Really?
He posted something on socials before the Purdue game. He was on the phone with DJ Burns.
Oh, I didn't think that was actually real.
It's real.
Oh, I didn't realize managers could hit the transfer portal, but
hey, well, grad assistant, you can go to grad school anywhere, right?
I mean, if he's coming, that's free publicity. I mean, no such thing as bad publicity.
Okay. And then from Gary, where's Mr. Consistent? He earned that one, let me tell you. Okay, Ken, our guy Ken. Interesting to see the juxtaposition at GM between UNC and State. One hopes if Buzz is a shadow GM, that means he brings real MJ dollars. Yeah, I mean, there's this thought process from Carolina fans that Jordan should do more NIL-wise for the program.
Yeah.
And there are some people who think if it's not out of his pocket, then why wouldn't the Jordan brand
do more?
Help Carolina the way that Phil Knight helps Oregon. I suspect Phil Knight's money comes out of Phil Knight's pocket. You know what I mean? So I've talked to Carolina people about this. I've asked them about this. I think it's like you're 20 years old, so you don't even remember seeing Michael Jordan play basketball.
No.
Right? No. But you know he went to Carolina.
Obviously.
Like completely and totally iconic. Like there's even people your age who went to Carolina because Michael Jordan went there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that legacy alone, I get it. That's the old math. It's not the new one with NIL. But it's hard to ask people. I get it. It's a tax on fans, even ones who have as much money as Michael Jordan. As Joe likes to say, the trick is to convince MJ that NIL is a casino and go to the casino and just have him play games and take his money and then apply the money to the NIL. So let's see. Some people have some more advice for you too. Bubba, take all the writing courses you can. Yeah. Yes.
Coming around on that.
Agree. Kenneth again. ECU's loading up in the portal. Is this hoops?
No. Football.
Football. Good. Russell Smith. Yeah, I agree. Great advice from Nata. Yeah, here's Joe. Looking forward to the hype grad assistant. Yes.
I didn't know that was actually real. I saw that. I thought it was like a
no,
fake.
it was real.
I didn't realize that was actually real.
Our guy, Evan, Ovius might be out of a gig. Welcome, James. Yes, perfect. And let's see. Last one from W. Certs. What's the over-under on years taken by State to make the Sweet 16 now with Wade? Obviously, it depends on what the roster is going to look like. I suspect with Slater, as Nata kind of laid out for you, this is not State tiptoeing into the waters. This is State ripping off a Band-Aid and going full on all in with both Will Wade and Andy Slater. So looking forward to that. I've been told that both of them are not happy with me.
Will Wade
and Andy Slater. Yes, because I broke news that they didn't want to be broken. But you know what, James Vito, as you'll learn,
part of the business.
We work for OG Media. We do not work for anyone else.
Get Will Wade on.
Eventually, he'll get over it. We'll figure it out. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us. Appreciate everyone here for checking in. We will be back tomorrow on the OG and OG proper for all of our ads, all of those good things. Actually, let's do one ad before we get out of here because this is a good way, easy way to line our pockets. If you're in the business for a refi, pretty please, with sugar on top, go check out Miller Lending. Best way to find them is millerlending.com. millerlending.com/theog. millerlending.com/theog. Or you can give them a call, 919-447-3377. No cost closing loan. Okay. Check them out. They're going to take care of you. If your credit card interest rate's at 22% and you owe a bunch of money, well, that 6% mortgage refi is a whole lot better for you on your wallet, and take advantage of your number one investment, which is your house and your mortgage. So check them out, millerlending.com/theog, or give them a call, 919-447-3377. All right, James. I know I've been kind of falling victim to the last thing I saw, but let's get a prediction before we leave here. Like, Duke's going to win this whole thing, right?
Yeah, I picked them. Honestly, I've been saying Duke all regular season. I've been saying Duke after their scrimmage versus Arizona State.
Or they beat them by like 50.
Before the season started. I've been saying it all year. I'm riding with Duke. I think they'll beat Florida. That was my original bracket prediction. Florida.
All right. Well, you know what I'll say to you? Your first answer is always the right answer.
Duke,
so
Florida's. I don't know if Florida's gonna come around, but Duke wins it.
James Vito, appreciate you. We'll have to do this again. Okay.
Yes.
Little drunken hour, booted out the cloud. Welcome to our live stream, OG After Dark. Little drunken hour, booted on the cloud. Welcome to our live